Good morning, students. So let me start. So first of all, I'll give one more reference book for this course. So this is functional analysis. By S. Kesavan. This is in Trim series book. So this is again a good book, and it will be sufficient for this course. So we were talking about bounded linear operator. Uh, So recall the definition. So if X and Y are non-linear spaces, we say T from X to Y is a bounded linear operator if T is linear, and the notation is we say T belongs to Lxy, and there exists some positive constant m such that norm of Tx is less than equal to m times norm x for all x in X. Note that Tx is an element of Y, so this norm is for the norm linear space Y, and norm of X is the norm in X. So and we denoted by Bxy. Is the collection of all bounded linear operators from X to Y. So we have also seen that this Bxy is a vector space. Now the first thing we'll see some equivalent condition for E being a bounded linear operator. So here is this theorem. So let X and Y be nonlinear spaces. So both are either real nonlinear spaces or complex nonlinear spaces. That is, the field is either real numbers or complex numbers. And suppose these are nonlinear spaces and T belongs to L of xy. That means that we are assuming that T is a linear transformation. The linear transformation. Then we have some equivalent condition. Then the following are equivalent. So first is T is continuous. Second, T is continuous at 0. Third is T is a bounded linear operator, which again the definition for us is that is there exists M greater than 0 such that norm of Tx is less than equal to M times norm X for all X in X. And let me write one more condition. Fourth is T maps bounded sets in X to bounded sets in Y. That means that if we take any bounded subset of X, then its image under T is a bounded subset of Y. So this is the reason why it is called a bounded operator. So let's try to prove this. So 1 implies 2. This is obvious because if T is continuous function, then it has to be continuous at all points of X. In particular, it is continuous at 0. What about 2 implies 3? So suppose we are given that T is continuous at 0, and then we want to prove that there exists some constant M such that Tx is less than equal to M times norm X. So if we assume T is continuous at 0, so assume T is continuous at 0, then we will use the epsilon delta definition of continuity. So if we take epsilon equal to 1, then there exists some delta greater than 0 such that if norm of X is less than delta, this will imply norm of Tx is less than 1. Right? We know that for any epsilon positive given, there will be a delta positive such that if norm X, because it is given continuous at 0, so norm of X minus 0 less than delta will imply norm of Tx minus T of 0 is less than 1. Here note that T of 0 is 0 as T is linear. Right? So this norm Tx is nothing but norm of Tx minus T0. Okay, so we have got this delta. So if norm x is less than delta, then norm of tx is less than 1. Now we want to find m such that for any x, norm of tx is less than equal to that m times norm x. So how do we find this m? So
Choose m equals 1 over delta.
yeah, 1 over delta or 2 over delta will also work. So uh, yeah, so if we take m, right, because I want strictly less than delta, so let me take now for any x in x, let z equal to say delta by yeah. So let's take any x in x is non-zero. So if I take delta by 2 norm x times x, so then norm of z is equal to delta by 2, which is less than delta. So therefore, norm of tz will be less than 1. But what is t of z? T z is equal to
The
delta
screen
by
is
2
not
norm x.
visible.
Wait. Oh, it's not visible.
Oh, it's not visible.
No, sir.
Okay, let me stop and again share the screen. Okay.
Okay,
Is it visible
is
now?
it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So yeah.
So
So
what
what
I
I
did
did is
is that
if
if we choose any x non-zero,
Sir, there is echo problem.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it should be okay now. So I choose z to be equal to delta by 2 norm x times x for any non-zero x. So the norm of z is delta by 2, which is less than delta. So therefore, we know that the norm of tz has to be less than 1. But tz, because t is linear, is this is scalar times t of x. So norm of tz, this we know is less than 1, and this is equal to delta by 2 norm x times norm tx. This implies norm of tx is less than 2 by delta times norm x. So therefore, norm tx is less than equal to this 2 by delta times norm x for all x in x. So as we have shown that for non-zero x, this is less than this, and for x equal to 0, of course, it is both sides are equal. So this proves that 2 implies 3. Now 3 implies 4 is again easy. So let B be a bounded subset of x. Then there exists some constant, say k greater than 0, such that norm of x is less than equal to k for all x in V. So then what is t of x? Therefore, t of x norm, this we know is less than equal to m times norm x, and norm x is less than equal to k. So this is less than equal to m times k for all x in B. So this implies T of B is a bounded subset of Y. And finally, 4 implies 1. So if T maps bounded set to bounded set, we have to prove that T is continuous. So So we are assuming that T maps bounded set to bounded set. So assume T maps bounded set to bounded set. Then norm of Tex, this will be less than equal to some m for all x in x, such that norm x is less than equal to 1. Because norm x less than equal to 1, this is a bounded subset of x, so its image will be a bounded subset of y. So norm of Tx is less than equal to some constant m. So for some constant m bigger than 0. Now we have to show that this implies continuity. So let show T is continuous. So we will use sequential criteria. So suppose xn is a sequence in x converging to some x naught, then this means that norm of xn minus x naught, this goes to 0 as n goes to infinity. What we have to show is that T of xn converges to T of x naught. That means norm of Txn minus Tx naught, that goes to 0. So if we look at Txn minus Tx naught, this norm, this is same as norm of T of xn minus x naught, because T is linear. And now we have to show that this can be made less than any epsilon if n is large enough. So let epsilon greater than 0 be given. Then we know that norm of xn minus x naught, that goes to 0. So therefore norm of xn minus x naught can be made smaller than anything. So let's take so there exists some natural number n such that norm of xn minus x naught, this can be made less than say 1 by m. So 1 by m for all n bigger than equal to capital N. So then norm of T, no, let's look at make it less than 1 by m times epsilon. So we can make it less than epsilon by m for all n bigger than equal to n. So then m times xn minus x naught, this norm less than epsilon. So this will imply T of so we can make this less than equal to m. So I think let me change here. So yeah, so maybe I'll do like this. So let epsilon greater than 0 be given, and then we will choose this m such that if norm x is less than equal to epsilon, then norm of tx is less than equal to m. So instead of taking the unit ball, we take this ball of radius epsilon. So we get norm tx less than equal to m, and then we use this. So let me remove this. For the epsilon given, there exists n such that norm of xn minus x naught is less than this epsilon by m. So this is less than equal to m, and this will imply t times xn minus x naught sorry. So let us change it a little. So yeah, no. So I can write like this. So if I write m by epsilon times norm of xn minus x naught, this is less than 1, and then t of this is less than equal to m. So this will give m by epsilon times t of xn minus x naught. This norm is less than equal to m, which implies norm of txn minus x naught is less than equal to epsilon. So I think what I was doing before was correct. So I can choose this m such that the unit ball is mapped to this bounded set given by m, and then for any epsilon greater than 0 given, I'll choose this capital N such that norm xn minus x naught is less than epsilon by m, and then m by epsilon times this is in the unit ball, so t of that is less than equal to m, and this gives norm of txn minus tx naught is, so that is txn minus tx naught this norm is less than 2 epsilon. This implies Txn converges to Tx naught. Hence, T is continuous at x naught. And this is true for any point x naught. Therefore, T is a continuous map. So anyway, so this is an easy result, but it's an important result. So to show that T is a bounded linear operator, it is enough to show that T is continuous at the origin. So now we will define norm of a bounded linear operator. So let T belongs to Vxy, where x and y are nonlinear spaces. We want to define its norm. So we define norm T equal to supremum of norm Tx such that norm of x is less than equal to 1. So we look at the closed unit ball, and then we look at the image of that, and then we are looking at the supremum of norm of all the vectors in the image of the closed unit ball. And we have already seen that if T is a bounded linear operator, then the closed unit ball, because it is a bounded subset, it is mapped to a bounded set. So this norm Tx will be finite. So this norm of T is less than infinity for any bounded linear operator. We will show that this is indeed a norm. So first, let's write this proposition. So let T be in Vxy, then norm T is equal to supremum of norm Tx from norm x equal to 1. So instead of taking the closed unit ball, we can just restrict to the unit sphere, and then this supremum we are claiming is again equal to norm of T, and this is also equal to supremum of norm Tx by norm x for all non-zero vectors x, and it is also equal to the infimum of all m greater than 0 such that norm Tx is less than equal to m times norm x for all x in x. First of all, I mean, you can see that all these are finite quantities, because if T is a bounded linear operator, then we know that there exists some m such that norm Tx is less than equal to m times norm x for all x. So this is a non-empty set. So and it is bounded below by 0. So there will be an infimum. And if we take the unit sphere, then of course this norm Tx, this will be less than equal to this norm of T, which is finite. So, and similarly here, this supremum will be finite. So let us write alpha equal to the first quantity, which is supremum of norm Tx. So norm x equal to 1, and beta is supremum of norm Tx by norm x for x non-zero, and gamma is this infimum of m greater than 0 such that norm Tx is less than equal to m norm x for all x in x. So we want to show that these alpha, beta, gamma are all equal and they are equal to norm of T. So first of all, if you see in alpha, we are taking all x with norm x equal to 1 and then looking at the a norm of Tx. So if norm x is equal to 1, then norm Tx by norm x is same as norm Tx. So it is obvious that alpha is less than equal to beta, because in beta we are taking supremum over maybe a larger collection. So this alpha is less than equal to beta, and if x is any non-zero vector, then x by norm x, if you take, this is a unit vector. So therefore, if we look at Tx, sorry, so T of x by norm x, this will be less than equal to alpha, right? Because alpha is supremum of norm of Tx for all unit vector. So in particular, if we take this one, then T of x by norm x, this is less than equal to alpha. But this will imply Tx by norm x, sorry, norm of this is less than equal to alpha. So norm of Tx by norm x is less than equal to alpha for every non-zero vector x, which implies this supremum. So beta is less than equal to alpha. So alpha is less than equal to beta was obvious, and then beta is also less than equal to alpha. So therefore alpha is equal to beta. And then to show that beta and gamma are equal, so beta equal to gamma, let m greater than 0 be such that norm of Tx is less than equal to m times norm x for all x in X, then if we look at norm Tx by norm x, this is less than equal to m for all x non-zero, and this will imply that beta is less than equal to m, right? Because beta was the supremum of norm Tx by norm x, where x is non-zero. So beta is less than equal to any m for which norm Tx is less than equal to m times norm x. This is true for every such m. So therefore, beta has to be less than equal to gamma. So beta is less than equal to gamma. Also, for any x in X, norm of Tx, this is less than equal to beta times norm x, right? Because if x is equal to 0, then of course both sides are equal. And if x is non-zero, then norm Tx by norm x, that is less than equal to the supremum of all such things. So it is less than equal to beta. So this is by definition, this is true by definition of beta. So norm Tx is less than equal to beta times norm x. So beta is one such m. And what is gamma? Gamma is the infimum of all such things. So therefore, gamma, which is infimum of m greater than 0, such that norm Tx less than equal to m times norm x. This infimum has to be less than equal to this particular beta. So gamma is less than equal to beta. So therefore, we get beta equal to gamma. So hence, alpha, beta, and gamma are all equal. Now we want to see that they are equal to norm of T. So what was norm T? Norm T was defined to be a norm of Tx, where norm x is less than equal to 1. So this alpha is the supremum of, okay, let me write. So alpha is equal to supremum of norm Tx for norm x equal to 1. This is obviously less than equal to supremum of norm Tx for norm x less than equal to 1, and this is same as norm of T. So alpha is less than equal to norm T. Conversely, we want to see that norm T is less than equal to alpha. So in fact, we know alpha, beta, gamma are all equal. So if I show that norm T is less than equal to one of these, then we are done. So if we take any m, if m greater than 0 be such that norm Tx is less than equal to m times norm x, for all x in X, then what is norm T? Norm T is defined to be supremum of norm Tx for norm x is less than equal to 1. So then norm of Tx will be less than equal to m for all x, such that norm x is less than equal to 1. So this will imply that norm of T, which is supremum of all such things, so this will be less than equal to m. So norm T is less than equal to any m which satisfies this. So this will imply norm T is less than equal to infimum of all such m, which is equal to gamma. So norm T is less than equal to gamma. So we have shown that alpha is less than equal to norm T and norm T is less than equal to gamma, which is we know is equal to alpha. So therefore alpha equal to beta equal to gamma equal to norm T. Okay. So we have that norm T is equal to any of these four quantities. Either you take supremum of norm Tx for norm x equal to 1 or supremum of norm Tx for norm x less than equal to 1, or you take supremum of norm Tx by norm x for non-zero x, or take infimum of all positive m for which norm Tx is less than equal to m times norm x for every x. So we also get as a corollary if T is any bounded linear operator from x to y, then norm of Tx will be less than equal to norm T times norm x for all x in X. Right? So this is because we know that when for x equal to 0, oh, of course this is true, and if x is non-zero, then norm T is nothing but supremum of norm Tx by norm x. So it is less than equal to norm T. So we get this. So we had seen that B of xy is a vector space, and now we have seen that we can define a norm on this. Let's show that this norm T is actually a norm on this. So next we will see
Sir,
that this is yes.
So in the definition of norm T,
Yeah.
can we replace supremum by maximum, because like norm x less than equal to 1 is a compact set and T being bounded is a continuous function. So it will
No,
need its
that is not correct what you said. So you see, if X is a finite dimensional space, then the unit ball, this closed unit ball, it will be a compact set. But in general, this is not. In fact, for any infinite dimensional space, this we will show that the norm, the closed unit ball, that is non-compact. So this supremum need not be attained.
Okay.
So maybe I'll give some examples also where you will see that this supremum is not attained. So you can have norm t equal to 1, but for no x in the unit ball, you will get norm tx is equal to 1. So it can happen. But on finite dimensional, yeah, you can write this as maximum also. Okay, so so next, let me write this theorem. This bxy with norm defined as above is a non-linear space. So we have already seen that this is a vector space. We already saw that bxy is a vector space with the usual addition and scalar multiplication. And to show that this is a norm-linear space, we have to show that this norm satisfies all the property of norm. So it's norm from bxy to R is indeed a norm so some things are obvious. So norm T, this we defined as supremum of norm Tx for norm x less than equal to 1. This obviously is greater than equal to 0 and norm T is equal to 0. This will imply that norm of Tx is equal to 0 for all x in X. Why? Because this norm Tx we know is less than equal to norm T times norm X, and norm T is equal to 0. So this is true for all x in X, and this implies that because this norm is a norm on the vector space X, so this will imply that Tx is equal to 0 for all x in X, which implies T is the 0 operator. So T is equal to 0. So the first property is obvious, and the second one is again easy. So alpha times T, if you see norm of alpha T, this is equal to supremum of alpha T of X for norm X less than equal to 1, and which is same as here mod alpha will come out, and then we will get supremum of norm Tx for norm X less than equal to 1, which is equal to mod alpha times norm T. The third is the triangle inequality. So if we take two O-bounded linear operators, so if T1, T2 are bounded linear operators from X to Y, then we look at T1 plus T2 of X. This is equal to T1X plus T2X. So norm of T1 plus T2X is norm of T1X plus T2X, which is less than equal to norm T1X plus norm T2X and this is less than equal to norm of T1 times norm X plus norm T2 times norm X. This is by definition of this is by this corollary that norm of Tx is less than equal to norm T times norm X. So this is true. So therefore norm T1 plus T2 of X is less than equal to norm T1 plus norm T2 times norm X for all X. Norm X for all X in X. And this will imply that norm of T1 plus T2, this is less than equal to norm T1 plus norm T2. Right? So here I am just using that this is gamma. Gamma was the infimum of all such thing. Or you can take norm X less than equal to 1, then this will be less than equal to this. So this supremum is less than. So the triangle inequality is also satisfied. So this is a norm linear space. I think I am out of time, so I'll stop here. So the next important thing I'll prove is that if this Y is a Banach space, which means that Y is a complete non-linear space, then this B of XY is also a Banach space. So for the completeness of this BXY, we need that the range space Y should be complete. So in particular, we will see that if X is any non-linear space, if we take Y equal to R or C, then this BX F that is denoted by X star, that is the dual of this. So for any non-linear space, its dual is always a Banach space. So that will be a particular case of that result. Then we will see some more examples, some examples of bounded linear operators, also unbounded linear operators, and then we will see some more results. Okay. Okay, so I'll stop here.